Welcome to the Jira Life, the place to find news, events, and interviews with the Atlassian community's movers and shakers. Join our hosts, Alex, Dr. Jira Ortiz, and Rodney, the Jira guy Nissen, as well as the Jira amigos in the peanut gallery, as we sit down and discuss the latest going on in the Atlassian ecosystem. Because we didn't choose the Jira Life chose us.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
It is good to be back.
You make it look like you were gone for like a month.
Yeah, it wasn't that
Maybe
long.
Maybe I was.
Just a week.
Hospital time gets weird.
I thought I was gonna die the last time I was in the hospital, so I'm sure you felt the same.
To be honest, last week the thought crossed my mind more than a few times. What if this is the end?
This is why you gotta crush your goals every single day, man. You never know when the end is near. You know, I got a very bad confession to make. I've been staring at a dumb thumbnail for like the last week trying to understand what the hell is up with the cat and why am I in a cat? And it's the dyslexia in me that I read that as catworkx, not catworks. So I was like, I did not see the relationship with the cat until just right now that I jumped on the call. You had cat much bigger and it was in my face. I was like, there's the cat. Now it all makes sense. A week later. I was like, I know Ronnie's got like this thing with cats, and like so I thought it was like a Ronnie thing, and I thought the medicine was like influencing whatever that we were doing. At no point did I think cat, like I knew it had something to do with you, because usually our titles have to do with the guest, but I read that as catworkx.
The only reason, and Bill, this might be a little bit of your fault, that I thought about this is when I stopped at the catworkx booth at Team 24, I remember you guys had, I believe it was cat stickers. And for some reason, that stuck with me.
And by the way, catworkx is a thing. It's like software for printing on t-shirts.
That's okay. Did not know that. And actually, I'm kind of mad because I'm thinking back to Team 24 now too. And we had these shirts made, and I have one upstairs. I could like go change if I wanted to, but I'm not going to do that. And it said meow in a big like comment bubble. It said meow and then had the catworkx logo. I should have worn that one. I'm mad at myself now.
Does cat stamp or anything? You haven't asked? It'd be interesting to cat. We had a little post on LinkedIn recently about tacos and tacos being the new issues.
Okay.
And I went and told my wife.
That was a random comment. I did not expect to go as far as it has.
No, well, yes, that thing really blew up. But Yimmy with the steal here, where he's just like, I'm just gonna call whatever next invention I make, it's gonna be called TAC OS for tacos.
That's beautiful. Make a Linux distro, call it Taco OS. I mean, I'm surprised nobody's done that yet.
I know, me too. So we're gonna definitely have that.
It's part of the larger sandwich family of OSs.
Shut up.
You have your Red Hat, you have your Debian, and then you have your sandwich.
Bob just has way too much time on his free hands. He has somehow figured out the taco. He has figured out the taco cat. It's also spelled backward as taco cat.
I mean, I have a shirt that says that, so it's not a new thing.
The fact that you guys are thinking about this, though. How much time do you spend, Bill, thinking about cats?
You know, I haven't had a pet cat in years, so not a lot. And even though we are called catworkx, I don't always jump straight to cats. But we do have a coworker that likes to relate it to other things with cat, like cat house. He's going to kill me for saying this, but cat house and different things. Since we're talking about, I saw in the comments the level of frankness on the show. So we do have some interesting deviations from the word cat, but cat isn't something that I think about like off the top of my head. Now, maybe if our logo was a like actual cat,
Cat.
maybe a little bit more. I mean, the new logo, you can see
But
the old logo up there, and the new logo looks a little bit more like a cat. But
I
I
can
see a
see-
lot
yeah.
more cat. Yeah, I can see
I
a
would
lot more cat in
definitely-
the new logo.
Yep.
I think
I
that's
get
what
a
we
lot
were going
more.
for.
I mean, it's a very subtle X and a cat on the new logo. I like it.
Exactly. We had some different choices.
Money well spent.
In the end, yeah. Out of the choices, this is the one I preferred.
I was at Northrop Grumman, and the name used to be Northrop Grumman.
Yep.
And then there was but it was like they weren't stacked; they were like off by a little bit. And then there was a dash that kind of connected the first name Northrop, because Grumman would end like over here, when Grumman would end over here. So there was a line, and like they one day they updated the logo and they just left the hyphen part or the little triangle. I was like, I could have done that for free. I don't know how many millions of dollars they spent on that new logo, but I'm like, if all you needed to do was get rid of the name and just leave the like, I could have done that for free.
It's insane how much these people pay for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, logos are expensive.
Rebranding is expensive, and just the whole process of it. Which brings us to Atlassian, I'm sure.
Well, now you have two things in common. You're a t-shirt company with Atlassian, and Atlassian's a t-shirt company too.
They really are. And a sock company. I still have a couple of pairs of high velocity ITSM socks from my visit in Austin in January.
So Bill, I spent the last week not only just pondering the cat, but also trying to ponder who the heck are you?
Well, let's get into that.
Yeah, I've never
Bill?
had a conversation with Mr. Bill here, so why don't you tell us who you are?
All right. Well, obviously my name is Bill Wood. I have been in the Atlassian community specifically for the last just over 2.5 years, but my career started about 15 years ago. And I'll admit, people say, "Oh, you look really young." I mean, I'm 29. And yeah, my career did really start 15 years ago. I started working when I was in high school I had some really supportive people in the school district that I was in that let me come work with them. And it was actual like loggable on a resume work. My senior year in high school, I got to go work for the school district like officially, which was cool. So I was an assistant technology coordinator at what was my elementary school, which was really cool going back and seeing all of them. After I did that, that was mainly like desktop support and some, people are going to love this, Novell administration, GroupWise, NetWare, Novell. Yes.
Isn't that from like
Yeah,
where
and there-
Eric
I
Mid came from?
think they're still on Novell, actually. It was, yeah.
That's old.
I have a lot of legacy experience. People talk to me about things and I'll bring up something like, you actually know what that is? I've used token ring networks too. So again, 29, I've used token ring networks. But yeah, so after high school, I left the school district since that was kind of an intern sort of thing. I worked briefly for a guy that did digital signage and web hosting, which was the web hosting part was a bunch of WordPress sites that he had not updated in years and had not like responded to support emails for like 6 months. So that was taking all of the hacked WordPress sites and restoring them to the latest backup he had. After that, I went to work for the First Judicial Circuit of Florida for a bit. I worked in their in the circuit IT. So I worked with just everything in the judiciary related to computers, which was really cool. It was a neat experience. Left for a brief moment to live with my my aunt, who is a retired business ethics professor. I worked with her on the 3rd edition of her textbook. Learned a lot, loved it. Came with a lot of takeaways on business ethics. Started Navy Federal Credit Union after that. Did IT warehouse, not desktop support. What did I do? Service desk. And then another legacy application, and my coworkers love hearing about this one. Lotus Notes. I was a Lotus Notes administrator.
How old are you?
29.
He said 29
No.
already.
29. I did Lotus. I was
dense.
I was at service desk. And
Okay,
out
let me
of
rephrase.
everything I could have picked.
How old were the companies you worked at?
I mean, this is a financial institution, so they're still on Notes and AS400 and stuff. Like, yeah, it's still around. And a lot of the Notes databases.
I'm 6 years older than you, and like I had the opportunity to use Lotus Notes in middle school.
Luckily,
that sounds about right.
It's like middle and high school. I didn't have to touch Novell after high school, but yeah, Notes. It's still very prevalent in the financial industry.
Really,
a lot of the databases that they're using.
Have they not discovered like Excel or anything?
Well, when you're screen scraping a CICS application to display in a Notes database, I mean, they could screen scrape and put it into a web app, but they're already invested so heavily into Notes. And I don't know how HCL is handling that since they bought it from IBM. But
that reminds me of Southwest. There was the hiccup of the whole that CloudStrike thing that happened, and like South was like, we're still using, but we're like South was like, we're still using 1960s tech. We're cool. We're
too old to be affected by this thing that is impacting the rest of the planet.
Like, that's one way to like beat cybersecurity attacks. Just don't be when the cybers are happening.
Exactly. Yeah.
It
no,
is.
You can, your biggest compliance is running OS 360, like from way back in the day, right?
Yeah. No one's writing any malware for that.
Got to go load the punch card in to load it. So
yeah, you physically got to put in punch card. But then, of course, like if somebody were to like nefariously create an attack, you'd be screwed because like nobody would be able to support you.
Yeah,
yeah. The legacy developers that are doing this stuff, especially in like the COBOL sphere, so these CICS applications, the stuff that's written for mainframe and AS400, all these guys are retiring. So, to those of you watching, if you're thinking about a little bit of a career change into something development-wise, learning COBOL, Fortran, and JCL, that's your career right there.
You might as well throw Ada into the mix.
Yeah. Speaking of COBOL, I actually had a chance to learn that in college. And I went to my guidance counselor or my counselor and said, look, COBOL's the past. We have a networking class that's optional. Can I take that instead of this? They're same level. She accepted it. We got all the paperwork done. And then I took my networking class, which I mean, it is the future. Or was back then, and got credit for that. And I think about that a lot now because that was a bad call.
Yeah, my degree was in networking. I was at the very end, and Pensacola State College down here was starting to reorient onto cybersecurity. And now that's the whole school of cybersecurity. But I was one of the last group of the influx of Cisco majors.
Are you sure you're 29?
Yes.
You got to be at least 50 to be working on this tech.
I started at Windows 3 also. And
like in your diaper. And
he also started early.
Yes,
so.
Literally, yes, in a diaper. I see that comment about OS2 Warp on the Token Ring network, and I have also worked with OS2 Warp. I also, so when I was at Navy Federal, I went to Lotus Notes Engineer because at Service Desk, I looked at everything that was available and I said, you know what I want to do at 23 years old? Be a Lotus Notes administrator. Love Domino. Well, it was honestly, it was a different way of thinking about things because nothing else was completely based around this document-based format. I mean, everything in Domino is a document, right? I mean, just everything. So coming from an environment, I've already been an AD, admin, exchange, all that stuff. So when you're focusing on the mail part, you're like, wait, this works way differently than exchange. That piqued my interest. And then I found out about the rapid application development side of it. And it's cool to learn. Now, doing it in the long run, I get out of that, but it was something cool to experience.
You got me thinking, like maybe like because everybody's like on React and all the good stuff nowadays.
I'm a React.
I wonder.
It's Forge.
Well, I wonder. Did he freeze up on you too? Okay, yeah. So I wonder like what Mike is probably gonna think like C++ is cool or C was cool.
I started at C and C++. That was my first programming language, was C++.
Yeah, I did. I started with C++, but I'm talking like my kids are 12 and 7. So like by the time they get to my age, they're probably gonna go back. Like it's like watch them start off with Ada. My wife did Ada for a while, so it's like it'd be really, really interesting.
Ada is an interesting one. I didn't dig too much in. I did BASIC. I have a Commodore VIC-20, so I played with BASIC plenty. In high school I did C++ 1 year. Then we did SQL for a year. Oracle, actually, it was specifically Oracle. So you had like that extra commit transaction you had to run, and that was fun. And I had 2 years of Java.
You must kill it at parties then.
Oh no, this isn't interesting at parties.
So my question here is, you transitioned to Atlassian at some point, I'm assuming.
Yeah, but at some point we left like 1960s.
So after you
got out of 95.
learned the entirety of IT history, you went to Atlassian at some point.
Honestly, it was after I did everything else in IT. I mean, after I left Navy Federal, my last role there was a notes administrator. After I left there, I ran my own MSP, managed services provider, for a while. So I was a CEO. I did hosted services, migrations to AWS and Azure, everything in between, supporting local small businesses. Then I got hired by IBM. At IBM, I was a mainframe and AS400 technician. So circling back to legacy. I also repaired a lot of ThinkPads, but
well, I mean, it's really not legacy when it's all you know. Sorry.
Exactly. I mean,
I worked at Boeing in Northrop, and I thought we were antiquated and old. And like my wife, when she was working on ADA, I'm like, you got to get the heck out of there, because like, what are you going to do as a CS student or CS major working in ADA? Like, you'll never be able to get a job anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, you think that's bad. Try working at a financial institution. They are literally still stuck in 1988 in some places.
Were dragged. If I remember right, they were dragged into 1988 and then just stayed there because no one was willing to drag them any further.
Well, the
US
Bank of America just had a little hiccup last night, no? By the way, Bob, did you check our money? Do we still have money in that account? I don't bank with B of A. I actively avoid B of A like the plague. Apparently with the Jira Life.
Oh my God. The U.S. government at one of the Air Force bases down here, there are a bunch of Air Force bases in Northwest Florida. And one of them, they had radar equipment from 93. And we decommed that mainframe and stuff that was running it and replaced it. I mean, it was a mainframe from the early 90s. That's how old a lot of the stuff is around here. It still exists.
I'm used to like, I made a funny joke. I was on, I used to work on a program. Have you ever heard of a Global Hawk? It's a big reconnaissance aircraft. It's got an enormous wingspan and it can fly for 30 hours at a time.
Oh, yeah.
And all it does is take like surveillance, right? And
Alex is going to get us some visits from some
this is all on Wikipedia. This is all on Wikipedia. Calm down. Anyways.
Oh, there's classified stuff on Wikipedia
too.
Don't lie.
This conversation is privileged, guys.
Privileged. Anyways, the point I'm trying to make though is like, I remember I was working on a modernization program and updating the UI for the aircraft. And one day I was like, let me look at the OG one, the one from the 1990s. That's the one that they were been using. The year was 2020, and they were still running the 1990 version, right? And I was like, holy crap, we win wars with this crap. It just makes no sense. Like, you're looking at a blip, and it's like, talk about like 480p was high resolution at that point. And it just blows my mind. And so to be taken even further back in like technology, like it just amazes me how, as humans, we're so advanced and so primitive at the same time.
You think back, our up until a few years ago, and this is common knowledge, not privileged. Again, make this clear. Our nuclear silos were still running off 8-inch floppies. I saw him making a joke about 5.25-inch floppies in chat a little bit ago. That's what came before that.
I have a couple of 8-inch floppies in my shop from my days at IBM, from a mainframe testing tool.
I keep a collection of 5.25-inch floppies that are the install for Windows 3.1.
Mine are on 3.5 for Windows 3, but yeah, I also have some 5 from for my Atari 800 loading software. I gave my friend, I got 2 Atari 800s, and I gave my friend the other one, and we'll trade software back and forth on the 5.25 floppies.
I still have floppies. I have the regular floppies. My son, he did something. He got like the little Walkmans. He got a Walkman that I had in storage once, and he's like, "What's this for?" And well, back in the day when you wanted to hear music.
I had a Walkman in the 90s. I mean, I was like 4, but I had one of those yellow Walkmans with the tape. We're not talking CD Walkman. We're talking tape Walkman. Yeah. And those uncomfortable headphones. I mean, they were like little plastic circles that they put directly into your ears.
Yeah, it was an aluminum band that was like etched into your side of your head.
I'm pretty sure I still have, if I was to shave my head, I'd have a line from those headphones.
Did you hear Jens complaining a couple days ago about his AirPod Maxes or $550 headphones that this little mesh part, it's not designed to withstand a lot of use. They go bad after some time.
I still have my like first generation AirPods Pro that I got in 2017 or 18 when they came out, and that's the newest. Well, no idea of a pair of
mine only my first gen only work if I don't put them in any mode. They just work as headphones. Any of the special modes, all I hear is static.
I'm surprised mine still work. I'm getting ready to upgrade to them. I'm waiting for the next set of AirPods Pros to come out, but the Maxes are too bourgeois for me.
So I think we got to deviate it again.
So we're getting close. We're getting close.
Yeah, how are we getting? So at some point, you have to modernize into Atlassian.
IBM. We're getting there. Yeah. So I worked at IBM.
IBM.
I was doing.
Did you have to wear the white T-shirt and the black tie?
No. I as a mainframe tech, I was kind of like up and down and on the ground a lot. So I had just blue IBM polos. But I got placed for a temporary assignment. Let's see, when was that? So I was sent to Tallahassee. It was fun being in a state capital in 2021 on January 6th. Like IBM locked us down. Like anybody who's in a state capital, they'll do anything. So that was crazy. So it was after that, it must have been April of 2021. I got sent to Northern Alabama to work at a data center that Wells Fargo has out there. Wells Fargo uses Jira. This is where we get into Atlassian.
There we go. We start hearing familiar words now.
Now we get to exactly. So the way that we interacted with Wells Fargo's Jira, you'd think as a vendor that was working on site, they would just give us access. No. You'd think if they didn't just give us access, well, maybe we could at least use the service portal. No. We would go into our IBM ticketing system, which was a CICS screen scrape, write the information on paper, and then hand it to somebody that worked for Wells Fargo IT for them to type it into Jira.
That sounds so effective. If there was a way to make Jira ineffective, I think that would be like the way to make Jira ineffective.
If there's a way to make Jira ineffective, I'd fully expect it from a financial institution.
You know what? It's not that far-fetched. I had a client one time that I worked with them where we built. I got Jira working for them, and they're like, "We want what's in Jira on this board with stickies, but it's in Jira." And he's like, "I know," and I'm like, "You realize somebody's gonna have to like run back and forth on these, right?" He's like, "I know," like, but we need it physically. I'm like,
the sad thing is, Wells Fargo is not the only company I have seen work off of pen and paper.
Mm-hmm.
Hey man, don't bash pen and paper though. Ain't nothing wrong with pen and paper.
Not normally, but when you're using it for service management, that's where it gets really and software development projects, that's where it gets really terrifying, is when you see a customer that's coming to you and say, "Hey, we want to implement Jira." Well, how are you doing your stuff now? Are you using, like some software kind of thing? No, we're doing this all in pen and paper. Did you say?
Are you ready for a culture shift?
So this is going to be fun. Yeah, it gets bad, but the Wells Fargo site was my first. Well, I mean, I played with Jira Confluence Data Center, or server actually at the time back in 2015, but I didn't remember much of it. So Wells Fargo in 21 was my first real exposure to Jira implemented in an environment. I did watch them play with it, so I understood how JSM works and kind of got the gist of it. But yeah, so after
Have you met our buddy Rob Heen? Have you seen his whiteboard video that he made? His little short. So this guy, we as Atlassian creators that Rodney and I are, we have these monthly challenges where we're supposed to do something cool or innovative for Atlassian marketing. And we did one where we're talking about like our favorite Confluence feature, I think it was, or was it specific to whiteboards? I think it was specific to whiteboards, right?
I think it was general Confluence.
No, it was I'm pretty sure specific to whiteboards. And so Robert has like next level innovative creativity. And so what he does was he films himself as different personas in this little TikTok that he made.
I was about to say that sounds like TikTok.
Yeah, and so he grabs his whiteboard. So he has a whiteboard and he's like, here's what we're gonna do today. And then he's like, everybody on the other side of the call was like, wait, what are we supposed to do with our whiteboards? Like, check your mail. They all got a physical whiteboard. And then he's like, you all need to like put the stickies in the exact same spot as me. So that we can do this virtually. And then somebody's like, what about this like Confluence like this digital Confluence whiteboard? He's like, wait, what? Why did I just ship all these whiteboards for it? It was so funny. But you're reminding me of that phenomenon where like I can see people like literally taking pictures of the whiteboard and like recreating them.
I mean, I'm not joking. I've had meetings where someone points the camera to the whiteboard in a meeting room for everyone remote.
See, and then we have all these layoffs and stuff, and you're wondering how. And I'm like, well, processes like this still exist.
That and some companies like IBM, I'm going to call out IBM. And actually, Rodney, you might remember when we were on stage at Cybert's event in April, I said I worked for IBM, and we actually got like an audience reaction to the point that I pointed it out, like, whoa, people got some opinions. It's on the film. They have it posted on YouTube. It's on the film. I'm like, well, people got some opinions. So IBM is doing this thing now where they're abusing return to office to force people to leave so they don't actually have to do layoffs even. Like they're like, go to this office across on the other side of the country or you don't have a job anymore. Yeah. And it's like I uproot my entire life for the same amount of pay in a city I can't afford. So yeah.
Try living in Southern California. I moved to an area of Southern California where I'm stuck in here. Like if I want to leave, I might as well like not leave because it'll take me 2 hours to leave my city and then 2 hours to come back in because everybody lives here and they all like there's a mass exodus of the entire city leaves in the morning and the entire city comes back at night. And it takes roughly 2 hours to do that trek each way. And I told my wife, I'm like, we'll never be able to get jobs outside of where we live. And there's nothing here but houses.
Yeah. I see Sarah's comment there about the soft layoffs. That's exactly what they call them. Yes. And it's very unfortunate. IBM does this all the time. They've been doing it for decades. They get sued for age discrimination quite a bit because they do target their older workers as well multiple times. Then they get sued and then just go do it again.
Dude, Boeing, when I was there, if you were 50 or up, you were on the chopping block any day, right? Like they wanted kids out of college.
AT&T did something recently too like that.
I mean, at that point for IBM, AT&T, any of these companies, question is the lawsuit just considered cost of doing business? Is it really punitive enough to make them go, maybe we shouldn't do that?
It's more than that, though. It's planes falling out of the sky because you fired the people that would have known how to fix it.
But people cost money.
They do.
Lawsuits cost less money, apparently.
God forbid we lose $250,000 out of our multi-tens of $1 million bonus this year.
It's because you're running stories back and forth physically across the box. That's what.
Is that what happened, Alex? Someone forgot to write down that Jira ticket on a sticky note and run it across the factory?
True story. When we did our first PI planning at the Big Blue that I worked at, we had like this butcher paper that was like the entire size of like 2 or 3 whiteboards length, right? And we had all the stickies and all the like the red ribbon connecting all the dependencies. And one fell out in transportation, and we're like, crap, where did this one go? And we're like, oh boy. That's like, I mean, I joke around, but that's like easily a $50,000-$100,000 mistake right there.
That's really, like really
one
crazy big impact.
One feature out of sync, out of order, and you're like, the whole plan just shot.
I used to work for VMware. That was my first big company I worked for. And We specifically avoided paper in our division for that reason. The other division VMware that had their own Jira instance did use paper for their PI planning, and they had problems like that. And we're like, we're not going to have that. We're going to be smart and use Jira. We were testing out and using a new app in production. Please don't at me. I was young and stupid. But we thought we had the permissions locked down. Well, I mean, I'd argue I still am, just a little bit wiser, but still, we're using it to try and coordinate the releases between all the projects so we get a common view of what the next release of the product looks like. The problem is we didn't have a lockdown enough. There was a PM who thought they were going to be wise and help us out and didn't know what they were doing with this app because we hadn't done training on it yet because it was still in testing and we thought we had it locked down. They deleted that version from all the projects and then waited 2 hours to tell me.
And folks,
so our regular backup had been overwritten.
And folks, this is why we have our channel sponsor. Thank you, Vibes, and don't forget to back up.
By the way, it just so happens if you want like backup solutions for your Atlassian instances,
check out Revive.
Absolutely, but no, they waited specifically long enough to tell me that our regular backup had been overridden. So I had our daily backup from previous night that had the correct data. I had our new backup that was current that didn't have it. And I'm like, you had to figure out the delta of whatever happened today from here.
Have you ever seen Scorpion?
No.
It was a show on CBS. It was a show on CBS with a bunch of like super Einstein level nerds that were just solving.
Oh, I think I watched like the first episode and nothing else from that.
The first episode would be the most appropriate one then, because in the first pilot they had a backup, and apparently like all the towers and the airlines, they got infected with the bug, so none of the planes could land or something like that. So they had one backup that was physically on the ground, and then they needed to get it on a plane. And so they got the plane to like fly really, really low, and the guy got in like a Ferrari and like drove as fast as he could on the runway and physically connected a Cat 5 to back up.
No.
Yes, that was
the most dramatic way that they can do it. Oh wow.
If you're gonna be doing your backups, you do it the easy way with Revise.
The way that they do these technology scenes in TV and movie, I'm sure we've all cringed massively at the stuff we've seen and heard.
What was it? NCIS, where they had two people on the same keyboard trying to counter hack a hacker.
The only one that I have never actually cringed at was, out of everything, it was a cartoon from Cartoon Network called The Amazing World of Gumball. And they had the daughter of the family. She's supposed to be like very like kindergarten age, but they were breaking into something, and she sat down at a computer and said, "All right, I'm going to get you guys in." And she said HACK hack, and then the door opened. They're like, "What'd you do?" And it turns out she'd said this whole like string of things that she had done, and it all worked. No, it was real. Like she was talking about the ESXi server and inter vSAN routing, but the whole string of it actually made sense. It was like something that was real. And that made me feel really good for the first time something actually was accurate when they were talking about how they did something.
Okay, and now I want to highlight this comment from Sean. Now I believe he's 29.
And I was too old for Gumball. I mean, I was watching the original episode of SpongeBob, right? But yeah, I was a little too old for Gumball. But it's a good show when you're also not, elementary school age. It's not Bluey or anything, But people relate to Bluey apparently. I don't know. It's not Yo Gabba Gabba, I'll say.
Okay, I only know about that because my little brother was of an age where he was into that. I've got questions because he is not 29.
So now that we got past the analog Atlassian,
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So just the last little bit. So at IBM, I went into management.
so now
what
you're
they
wearing the
call
white t-shirt and the tie.
basically, except I was still remote. But yeah. So national duty manager, I helped field escalations and stuff and pass them around to service managers and stuff. It's kind of boring. And then I went to do Lenovo escalation. So I was the I was the Spock between IBM and Lenovo for any escalations from a Lenovo repair. Because IBM, even though they sold the Think series off to Lenovo back in 2005, they still have all of the contracts for service. So if somebody's Lenovo system breaks, IBM is who comes to visit to fix it if you have on-site service. So if somebody was dissatisfied or they weren't hearing from their technician, the escalation would eventually come up to me. I'd send it out to Lenovo, or Lenovo would send something to me. It was bi-directional. Then I was stolen away by Stagil. There's like 10 different ways to pronounce it, and I goofed up the first one. Stagil, which is how we say it down here in America, Stagil. They were a German consulting firm that also does Jira plugins, Confluence plugins. They were bought by catworkx last year. And so I was stolen away from IBM to Stagil and then merged into catworkx from there. And that's where I am now. So when I got hired in, I had all of this server and data center experience, right? I had done really at this point, I mean, we've covered, I pretty much have done everything in the ITSM lifecycle. But that admin experience was really useful because we have data center customers and needed somebody who understood how to work with Linux and Windows servers. Yes, it's unfortunate we still have Windows servers out there. Rodney and I touched briefly on this back in Las Vegas. Yeah, but that's how I got started on my Atlassian journey. Is 2022. Got hired at Stagil, started working with data center products.
So I'm assuming you kind of been like in Smallville. What was that movie? There was a movie where everything was black and white, and then all of a sudden they start seeing in color. I'm assuming
The Wizard of Oz.
Was it the
No, it wasn't Wizard. I know what he's talking about, but I can't think of the name either.
What was the movie with Tobey Maguire where they were young Tobey Maguire?
So
but there's
here's
also
my
the book,
question.
The Giver. Was it The Giver too, right? The Giver was like black and white, and then they started seeing in color whenever you saw or something. I don't know. Pleasantville, there we go. But what was that transition to go from like analog novelle to not that?
Had some intermediaries, right? So it went from the novelle to the notes, but in between,
I would classify 95% of your anything in your career prior to 2022 was black and white.
It's valid. That is a very valid assertion.
But how did that feel? Yeah. Did you feel liberated? Did you feel like there was a whole new world? Did you have like a little aerial moment?
Well, I've always played with this new stuff. I've been using I mean, I'm going to sound like an old guy again. I've been using AWS since it was like 5 services over 10 years ago. So I did familiarize myself with the cloud and all this stuff too. What I do is I also play with this stuff at home. I have a home.
So you knew there was a better way, but you just stuck.
I mean, career-wise, it was kind of what I was boxed into. But I also have this interest in older things. Like I could call myself maybe nostalgic from a young age. I grew up on TV shows from the 70s. I can tell you like Good Times and the Jeffersons and All in the Family, and anybody who's taking Archie Bunker like at face value unironically is not getting the point of Archie Bunker. Sanford and Son, I mean, up into the 90s, I watched, Family Matters and stuff. I'm not going to do my Urkel impression because that's extremely embarrassing.
There I can't blame you. I'm rewatching all of Seinfeld right now.
I actually just started watching Seinfeld. Yes, exactly.
I'm on like halfway through season 4 right now.
That's my first run, and I'm also in season 4.
Bob, these kids are making me feel old.
That's what I get for being born in the middle of the 90s. But no, like I always was interested in the stuff that came out before then. And the benefit of this is learning why things are the way that they are now, where we came from. And outside of IT, I focus my interests are history, ethics and philosophy, economics, and politics. So learning where we came from and why we're where we are now is like my entire wheelhouse outside of just IT. So
that kind of leads me into a question I've been wanting to ask.
Sure.
I see this a lot, especially with the fact that most Jira admins, this wasn't our first career path. Just the difference between myself and Alex, because he started more of a PM route, whereas I came from a sysadmin route. When we're talking about Jira administration, we'll talk about different approaches. Like, no, really, I have this approach for this reason. He has different approach. Neither one is really wrong,
and neither right.
Neither is really right either. But how does the fact that you've studied all of these various old
Antiquated
technologies and literally everything from the dawn of server computing to the modern age impact how you approach your Jira administration?
It gives me the ability to take a look at a customer's unique situation, understand what their requirements are at like their level. I'm not coming in with a template, we're going to do cloud migration. We're just going to get it done and go. I understand what I have a customer right now that we are migrating who is using Domino as their directory.
Okay,
right
so
now.
it's not pizza then. So there's something else to Domino. I've been thinking pizza the whole time.
Lotus, Notes.
No.
Notes. Domino is the server side of Notes for those of you who don't know all the terminology. I should have.
The whole time I'm thinking you're
elaborated.
like building the Domino's pizza tracker.
Our entire directory is stored on a computer at Domino's Pizza. No.
I mean, it would be a secure backup. No one would suspect it.
Nobody would know.
Another revised option. back up your Jira data at your local Domino.
Exactly. So coming in with all of this exposure to the way that things worked in the past gives me this seemingly unique ability to kind of guide a customer to the right way to upgrade from an understanding of where they are now. Because a lot of people, even way older than me, can come in and have this plan for a migration, but then they get thrown these curveballs. Well, we're using Domino. Well, we're using SQL Server 2000 and 2000, SQL Server 2000. We're using these really old things, and we're on Jira 2. Get us to the cloud. I'm right there right now. Not Jira 2, but Jira, what was it, 4? I'm in the middle of a cloud migration right now from Jira 4 or 5 and Confluence 4. So it's very helpful. It's very helpful, and customers love to see that when they're working with an Atlassian partner, that partner really understands what their environment is and what they're dealing with. And when you can relate to the partner on that level, they seem to really they have a better feeling about the outcome by far when they feel like the partner really gets their situation.
I think jokes aside, because this last 45 minutes has been just me cracking jokes at you.
Oh, has it been 45 minutes?
Jokes aside,
yes.
I think what you just said is probably the most valuable thing, right? Like being able to bring that perspective and understand. I think the understanding is most than anything, right? Because a lot of these companies are going through a scary, it is a scary transition, right? Like you're having to update, you're having to retrain your team. Jira Cloud, even though it has Jira in it, it functions like
not
Jira.
the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same beast.
So I think it's really important. Like I would love to have, like if I was in an antiquated system and I needed to come into the 21st century, like I would love to have someone with your experience and appreciation for the pain points that I have because you've lived through them.
I put myself through some of them too, deliberately. Yeah.
No, like for fun too, like, which is the part that blows my mind.
I have a home lab. I've had a home lab this entire time. You don't blink. He has a home lab, and all of a sudden, it's a thing of wonder.
Because his is like a museum, and yours is not.
I don't know what he's saying about that.
My greatest like old piece of tech that I have, I think, is the first iPod that still physically moves the wheel. But
Well, I told you guys I have an Atari 800, but I also have a 1989 Macintosh SE30 at home. I have my first PC, which was an AST 486. I think Samsung bought AST in the early 90s. So, yeah.
that's what we're gonna do a show and tell one day on the Jira Life. Bring your oldest piece of tech.
I'm down.
So,
But seriously, yeah. So I mean, I put myself through all this. The first domain I built was NT4 with Windows 2000 clients. Which why are they Windows 2000 with NT4? But whatever. It was a hodgepodge. I wanted to do that to myself, and that was in middle school. I've done this to myself for decades, so it's helpful. Yeah, when I can come in and relate to the customer at that level. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing these days. Is the Atlassian ecosystem. Forge development. I've gotten into Forge. I'm developing custom. Oh my god, custom
we're making
plugins.
up new words too.
They're not custom plugins. They're plustoms.
Dude, that would be so cool to like text your Jira tickets, but like in the old like flip phone QWERTY, not like new QWERTY, but like
T9.
You're talking about T9s?
yeah, like be able to do that where you like
Yeah.
send it. Imagine how long it would take you to write out a story like that.
We used to text massively before I got my Palm Trio. Again, that's something that was older than I should have been and having it at that time. Before I got my Palm Trio, we were texting like massively on T9 when I was in middle school. It was just
but you didn't even need 2 thumbs back then. On the T9, you just needed that 1 thumb. I used to have a friend who would like be staring right at the teacher.
You could do it on 1 thumb, but you were faster with 2.
Hey,
That's
us
true.
4 people, our phones were a lot smaller than yours. You could fit it all on 1 thumb.
I was really happy to go to the Palm Trio.
My first QWERTY keyboard was the Verizon LG B. Like when that thing flipped over, it was like game over. It was like holy moly.
We could go on a whole tangent about phones.
It was thick though. I still have
cords.
it. I still have it. It's thick.
Dang. Okay.
I mean, back when I still had a flip phone, I actually had a separate Palm PDA, and that thing changed the course of my college career because I am notoriously terrible memory for scheduled events. And having that thing that'll beep and remind me, hey, you got this calendar event for this class starting in 30 minutes.
Notification noise in my head right now.
Dude, you're reminding me of I had a friend, she shows up to class, got there a little early. She was like, I'm gonna just take a quick 20-minute nap. Woke up when class was over and just drove home.
You know, the Palm, the PDA Palm before the phones actually was one of the most gravitational parts of my childhood when I was in the end of elementary school. The principal actually of my elementary school had an extra Palm M105, black and white, like just after Handspring merged back into Palm. Oh, but I know a lot of the company histories too. So I know about Palm and Handspring splitting off back into Palm and all that stuff.
Have you heard of the quiz whiz? Too bad Tajit is not big on IT history. That should be a good quiz whiz.
That would be a fun route to go. That could be a whole special episode of the Jira Life. It's just
then Sean might actually help me win this time. So I was on the. Have you heard of the quiz whiz? I'm assuming you have. Yeah. So the second to last round, I had to go solo. My partner had a little hiccup, so Sean steps in to help me out, and no, I'm not joining. I haven't applied. I'm intentionally not applying. But anyway, so Sean,
you've been selected.
You've
been selected as tribute. You cannot deny that.
I'm not submitting anything. I am not submitting any paperwork. But anyways, Sean, I love this of Sean. Like Sean hates Apple so much because he has that vendetta with Apple since like 1960 something. I mean, you can't still be mad at a company because of something they did 50 years ago. Sean's like, yeah, you can.
Watch him.
Sean's like, hold my beer. According to Jeet, there are only a couple of. I'm not applying. Don't even.
Bob, as TGL crew members, we may have to apply him for him.
You can. That's forgery.
Only if you
Alex
sign a
says, like, I care.
Sean says it's 1982. I keep adding 10 years every time I tell the story.
The other thing that I've tortured myself with is doing my own law. So it's only when you sign an actual contract that you're committing forgery. I think somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, it's when you actually sign somebody's name like that.
So
So
the
hey, you can apply somebody to
idea.
whatever you want. Send his name to Scientology. You know, it's not forgery until somebody's signing a contract.
Interesting to know. Don't give these guys ideas though, because they will exploit them.
So
I did want to ask you an important question. Hold on.
Okay.
Given your career outlook that you've had, right? Like, what advice would you have for somebody who's been in that situation of like grew up with these novel networks, grew up with these like more older technologies? They're still not quite ready to retire, but there's like a whole new world of Atlassian. Like, what advice would you have for, or not even Atlassian, but just there's still a whole new IT world out there, right? But a lot of people are like, they don't want to learn the new tech. It's scary. It's overwhelming. Like, any advice you would have for someone like this?
This is something I've run across a lot. Even these days with Atlassian customers, we have people that are on data center because they're skeptical of cloud. They don't understand it. They know that they have a server that runs something and it's there and it works. They don't have this trust. So the way that I have developed my skills over the years is by playing with things on my own before just being thrown into implementing them in production. And the biggest thing that I've told people, because I've been asked this question before by people in this exact thing. First, you just have to like take a deep breath. There's going to be some new stuff you're going to have to learn. It's perfectly okay. But play with it on your own first. I mean, all these different providers have free tiers. AWS, you sign up for an account, you get a year of free tier, everything. I mean, they give you a lot of room on AWS free tier. Azure for the same. And you can play with all this stuff and learn it before you decide whether you want to move into it. But gaining that experience, that hands-on time with it before you start thinking about moving your infrastructure over to these new solutions is really the most valuable thing. So for somebody who's on, say, data center and they're worried about moving to cloud, they don't maybe understand it, sign up for a free cloud account on your own, play with it, learn it, think about how those changes would happen, and kind of like consider the environment you're coming from on data center and take your experiences from cloud and kind of apply that to your thinking in that situation. So don't be scared. Play around with it. Everybody has like gratuitous free tiers, and
nobody came out learning how to use it. Like, nobody was born knowing how to use AWS.
I mean, that was my sticker this year at Team was no one was born a great Jira admin. We're all made.
Except Valiantis said that we were all the world's best Jira admin, but
my mom,
just completely ruined my message, Valiantis.
My mom in that mug, every time I see her, I was like, lady, if you only knew what you're holding in your hands.
I loved their whole The Office theme kind of on that at Team 24. That was pretty interesting. I'm catworkx. I'm not allowed to say that. No, but I really did. I thought Valiantis' theme was kind of interesting.
Well,
but yeah, no. So that's kind of
the thing next time. I still can't believe I was like my first. I seriously thought it was like Rodney's like infatuation with cats. I'm like, why is the world as our heads in a cat? And it did not honestly click. Like I was gonna say something during the pre-show, but I wanted to save it for the recording. But I was like, my jaw kind of dropped there for a second because I'm like, I cannot believe now I know it makes sense why we went with the cat theme. But we are down to the last 5 minutes, and we had a script, which I don't think we touched.
That we very
did. We followed it.
I think we
I didn't get to talk
everything.
about working for catworkx. I didn't get to talk about AI. I'm like the AI guy. Like
it's okay because we've already signed you up.
We could always have you. We could always have you
back. I think at Team 24 was AI. I mean, I gave a session on the expo floor about it last year.
No. We've already got you committed for another session.
Okay.
Whether you like it or not.
I'm perfectly okay with that.
I'm
happy to.
We like to do a little something here at the end of the show, and give it over to Rodney to guide you through the rest of it.
So we like to do a quick Quizlet. These are 5 quick questions. They could be either A, B, short answer, fill in the blank. The goal is to answer them as fast as possible with your most truthful answer. You can explain your answer after each question. We'll give you time between questions, but we want that first answer as fast as possible.
Okay.
These are going to be challenging questions.
And don't forget, I need to agree with your answers too.
Yes, Alex will judge you on your answers.
If I hadn't been judged hard enough, then I don't know what judgment can be.
I don't know, Bill, but I think you and I are going to be best friends.
All right. So first question. What is your Jira pet peeve?
Data center. Windows data center. Just the fact that it exists on Windows at all.
I could agree with that. Alex?
I can't remember what version we were on, but I want to say it was Windows 2, and I remember crying a lot.
Yeah, when it takes like, I have a migration coming up not a migration, but an upgrade coming this weekend. We scheduled a 6-hour window to upgrade Jira within versions of 9. We're going from like one LTS to another. We scheduled 6 hours, and I think it's going to take longer. You got Defender in there scanning every single file and every single ACL update. And they also have another enterprise antivirus sitting on top of that InfoSec will not let them disable. Takes like 5 to 10 minutes on Linux. Takes nearly 8 hours on Windows.
For context here, Atlassian recommends that you do disable antivirus on the install directory at minimum.
Absolutely. Always. If InfoSec will let you, which is where my roadblock is.
Yep. All right. So second question. When you're programming, do you use tabs or spaces?
Tabs.
Alex?
It's always tabs.
It just works.
It's always tabs.
What insane person actually hits the space bar 4 times every time they start a new line?
Rodney does.
I do not. I actually use the tab. I just have VS Code converted to spaces for me in YAML, which has to use spaces.
Yes. Now, in certain languages, YAML or even like Python, it gets like if you're moving, copy and pasting stuff, you can mess up your Python if you don't have it standardized.
But I was gonna say, if you're worried about YAML, go join the COBOL people.
Hey, be nice to YAML.
Hey, now they make money.
Everybody makes money.
All right.
Okay.
So question number 3. If all the world is a stage, where exactly does the audience even sit then?
I could get really philosophical with this one.
Please do.
I don't believe this is my I don't think this is my real answer, but some would say my philosophy professor would say, what if God is the audience? My actual answer, that is a good one. I might have to straddle that.
Wait, but based on that logic, then technically we're on the moon, then, no?
This is going to devolve into like another 30-minute tangent. So I'm going
to. Okay, for members only, we have the after show.
I think it was just yeah. I mean, regardless of one's position on the existence of a supernatural higher being, philosophically, what if that being were the audience and Earth was the performance?
Maybe, but I like to think it's like one of those performances where the actors go into the audience. They're just the audience is intermingled. Yeah.
It reminds me of Elon Musk was recently on an interview saying that like if aliens were to have Netflix and they'd be watching what happens on Earth, like our show would be like top 10 on Netflix. Just
South Park.
South Park did it first.
Yes. I forget all the context, but yeah, where the it turns out that Earth was a TV show, and they put all these like different species from all these different planets onto one planet together to see how they live. Yeah, exactly. But
all right,
yeah.
So question number 4 of 5. The last YouTube video I saw and liked was.
There's only one right answer, FYI, just as a spoiler.
The Jira Life. No, but I wish. No, but so I want to say that Cybert finally, like a few weeks ago, got around to posting our our panel on
Chris
YouTube.
Cook
I don't
over
use
there,
YouTube
he's
a
just
lot.
dragging his feet because he's got his feet up on the mantle where he's got like facing the ocean with his new villa that he bought. That's why they're taking forever.
So I don't use YouTube a lot, and that was the next to last thing that I watched. But the last thing that I watched and liked, there was this series by a channel called Film Cow about between 12 and 15 years ago called Llamas with Hats.
Oh, did you watch the epilogue?
The epilogue, I saw it yesterday. That was the last thing that I did, the epilogue.
That
The
was
last thing,
deep.
your last thing keeps changing every time.
Carl, that kills people.
All right.
Last
So
question.
last
one at a
question,
time.
our most controversial question, but our last one. How do you pronounce Jira query language? Is it JQuil or JQL?
JQL. I've never heard anybody say JQuil.
Where? How? It's a thing.
I was at Team 24 and nobody, well, we didn't talk about JQL a lot, but nobody said JQuil.
That should be on your post for the next time that you ask somebody. Is it JQuil? I mean, it's SQL. Why wouldn't it be JQuil?
And there was some other name Atlassian called it back when they were like preparing to release JQL in the very beginning. I saw it in an old slideshow, but I don't remember what it was. But it wasn't even originally called JQL. They called it like something else too.
What did IBM or what did Lotus call it? There's a database version of Lotus, no?
So Notes, we didn't have a query language, but they did have their own interpretation of BASIC to write the applications, and they called it Lotus Script.
DXL is what I'm hearing over here.
I don't know anything about DXL.
Should be SQL or JQuil because it's SQL.
Yeah, well, that's what you say, but
I say I should alternate between the two every day just to annoy Alex.
I thought for sure you were going to ask him our most controversial one. Is it Jira or Jira?
No, I don't want to start a fight.
I don't want to remember that people say Jira.
Really? I mean, I hate Jira so much. It's like, if you want to piss me off, call it Jira and see what happens.
As I said, I know better than that one. That one just causes fights.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much. We are definitely out of time. Appreciate y'all being here.
Yep. A note, next week we actually do not have a guest. I mean, technically we do, but he's on the show right now. I'll be the guest reporting on what we discover from Team 24 Europe. And I will be very tired likely, so it's going to be a fun episode. Tune in.
Sounds like
And as we always say, we didn't choose a Jira Life. Jira Life chose us. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Jira Life. Our hosts are Alex, Dr. Jira Ortiz, and Rodney, the Jira Guy, Nissen. You can find Alex on YouTube at 8Tech Tutorials, and Rodney's blog is found over at thejiraguy.com. Our producers are Robert King Bob Wen and Lina Ortiz. You can catch us live as we record this podcast every Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on YouTube at The Jira Life. Be sure to join us and our other Jira Amigos of the Peanut Gallery every week to ask your questions, let us know your comments, and just tell us what you're up to. But if you can't join us live, you can still catch the replay over on YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell while you're watching. We're also available as a podcast over on Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you listen to it and think it deserves a rating, we would very much appreciate it, as it will help others discover the Jira Life. Because we didn't choose the Jira Life. The Jira Life chose us.